Hi, this is Joyce, and it's 2020. Can hardly believe it. 2020. And as I said before, this is the beginning of the 21st century. With 2020, we can all see very clearly now. And what do we see? We see that there are conservative governments who are rewarding coal lobbyists, the fossil fuel lobbyists, and what are the people getting for it? In Australia, the payback for the people is not good. 12 million acres have burned. 12 million acres. Think of the wildlife, the people. How many have died? The homes that are lost, the farmland that's destroyed. And what went on in Australia doesn't stay in Australia. Because of the extreme heat, the weather pattern has become a warm weather feedback loop. I never heard of fire tornadoes before. Did you? Sorry, that's my watch. I thought when I said put my iPhone on quiet, it meant the watch too. Looks like it's got to go on theater mode instead. But back to the tornadoes. That's no laughing matter at all. When the Prime Minister went to visit the people in New South Wales, they were angry. They were very angry. They didn't want to shake his hand. They just wanted him to know that they felt his response time was bad, that there was no help for the people, and people literally had no way out of the province. There was one lane. That's it. So folks were literally going to the water's edge so that they could escape being burned. This is a dreadful state of affairs, and it's not isolated. Not isolated at all. New Zealand has caramelized glaciers. That's what they're calling it. The yellow and red dust that appeared all over Australia floated 1,200 miles away to New Zealand. I can't imagine what that dust is going to do to their glaciers, but nobody can breathe it. And it certainly means it's going to create a heat barrier there. So what we do in our own country doesn't stay in our own country anymore. We're literally connected to everyone. What we do in Australia affects New Zealand, could affect Antarctica. What we do here in America, we know affects other countries, because people all over the world are saying to me, what happened to America? Why aren't we leading anymore? We're not leading for the same reason Australia isn't leading, except in oil and gas and coal exploration. The money is too good. Donald Trump wouldn't be making millions already for his re-election campaign if folks didn't expect to make billions off of it. And again, this is advocating a pro-corporate regulation or deregulation mood. They're taking in the corporate bucks and they're promising them the world. And they're literally getting it. Unfortunately, it may be dead of most of the animal species inhabiting this earth. 40% of the birds in Antarctica are already decimated. 40% of the birds in America are decimated. When corporations were confronted with a $15,000 per bird fine, do you know how many birds died that year? 28. With total deregulation on birds, millions of birds are dying. Deepwater Horizon today, the corporation would not have been culpable for the cleanup. All a corporation has to say is that they didn't intend to kill the birds. So if they get millions of them in their nets or whatever construction they're doing, it's just tough. The birds are dead. Whole migratory species are gone. What do you think that's going to do to our ecosystem right here in America? We already know fires have destroyed much of the wildlife and the homes and lives and livelihood of folks in California. But that was only 1.2 million acres compared to Australia's 12. When it happens in California, we already know that one of the principals responsible was the Pacific Power and Gas Company. They disconnected so many people from the electric grid that not only were people suffering with the fires and the pollution and the toxicity, but they also had no food or water of their own. Luckily, there's a little known Indian tribe in the Humboldt Valley, and they disconnected from the grid. They have a microgrid. They were able to serve tens of thousands of people. They had food, they had supplies, and they had gas. Other folks in California could also go on the microgrid. Do you know what's stopping that progression of technology? It's so simple. There is no regulation on the books to tell you that it's okay to dissociate from the original grid and build your own solar plants with battery connections so that you can store the solar energy. If they only took the time to write the legislation, whole communities could either be on the grid or off the grid at probably minuscule cost. But technology is running apace of our governments. Our governments are falling behind in common sense regulation and sprinting ahead to deregulate 95 regulations that would prevent pollution, whether it was air or water, that would prevent the death of birds, that would prevent the loss of lives, our lives. So it looks like you can choose conservative government, but you can choose it knowing that a select few are making the money. Coal miners, I don't blame them if they go for Donald Trump. They just got a pension package from the United States government as part of the $1.4 trillion budget that was passed in a bipartisan manner. All 100,000 pensioners from the coal industry will have their pensions assured through taxpayer dollars. Pretty much everyone else's pension is up in the air. Because of the interest rates, nobody knows whether or not they will all be paid out or paid out the way they were written. But the coal miners, and I have nothing against them, because I do think they were entitled to their pension, but they were entitled to the pension by the corporations that hired them. Speaking about giving corporations carte blanche and letting them write domestic policy, we're not getting anything back for them having gotten the tax cuts. Manufacturing is down in America because the tax loophole exists today that says it's far cheaper to run your headquarters, your manufacturing offshore, because all those profits are still tax-free. Firestone, in the beginning of the 20th century, didn't even bother to set up shop here in America. They went to Liberia, and they employed the entire Liberian population in the production of tires and any product that uses rubber. For less than $6 a day, Liberians were happy to work for Firestone. Now, they're not so happy. Firestone is leaving Liberia, and the people are going homeless and hungry. There ought to be a law. We've done it before. When Ford Motor Company closed down their plant in the 70s at Malwa, there was a law on the books that said no corporation that employed thousands of employees, and most of the plants employed 5,000 employees, could go out of business without first placing their employees in other jobs and giving them sufficient severance so they could survive. So our country and other countries were never used to giving carte blanche to corporate desires and wants and profits. We always had a bottom line that we thought about, and that bottom line included we the people, that we had to do right by we the people. The aspirations of moral money and ESGs, which is giving to the environment, society, they're aspirations. Unless there are regulations for corporate greed, it will know no limit, and we're seeing that today. Trump doesn't have to worry about elections in 2020. He's already rewarding his constituents. And when he doesn't do it directly, people like Elaine Chao are doing it for him, so that Mitch McConnell will be reelected. She is giving hundreds of millions in transportation contracts out for the state of Kentucky. Mitch McConnell already has Deripaska there, building an aluminum plant. Let's see if honor or integrity trumps getting cold cash. I'm not so sure. Somebody asked me today about what did I think of the assassination of the head of the Quds Force. He's been a bad guy for many years. But do we really want to be mired down in Iraq again? We're not into nation building. That's why Iraq is in trouble today. That's why people are rioting today. That's why they're storming the American embassy today. We never built a coalition government. We had the opportunity. For $5 million, the Republican guards who worked for Hussein would have signed on with American forces, and they would not have gone to war against us. But we never gave them the $5 million. And so, because we never built an intact, non-corrupt, all-inclusive government in Iraq or Afghanistan, we have anarchy. Do we really want to bring our boys back to Iraq now? Does Trump really think that that's a way to get reelected? He, in fact, scolded Obama for going into Iraq in 2012. Why would he do the same now? So, do we have a world to save? You bet. And the way to do it is to start reining in the power of money and the money that is funneled to people seeking legislative office. The sooner we have election reform, the sooner we have real regulation of corporate power, the sooner we'll have democracy and not an oligarchy, because the oligarchs are winning at the expense of 360 million people here and billions around the world. So this is 2020, everyone, and we do see clearly now. And the future can be very bright for all of us. All we need is a little regulation, putting back in place what we've deregulated would be a good start. So take care, everybody. More news to come, more to discuss, but pollution, pollutants, weather patterns, they're going to be the catastrophes that will bring all of us to our knees. And that's going to be the most important topic of conversation. But when we resolve that, we will resolve healthcare, infrastructure, education, and have a healthier, more productive population, not only here, but all over the world. We'll all benefit, and living wages will increase. Seems to me our future is bright. We have a choice to make. Which course do we choose? Do we honor short-term corporate wishes at the expense of our lives, or we choose regulation and choose to confront the weather patterns, the pollution, and the pollutants that confront us today? See you next week, and have a good day. Bye now.